and welcome to my channel. My name is Rachel. If this is your first time here, welcome. And if it's not your first time here, thanks for coming back. So today, I thought it would be fun to just take a trip down memory lane. I looked back at my favorite products from the year 2021, which was not last year, the year before, right? Listen, I don't know what year it is. Is anybody else the same? I feel like I'm so confused, but I looked at my video, like my favorites videos for the year of 2021. I kind of wanted to revisit those products and see if they're still favorites of mine. Have I kept them in my routine? Have I not touched them for an entire year? Do I not like the products anymore? Because listen, I'll be honest with you. A lot of people say like, oh, when something's my favorite, it's my favorite forever. For me, that's not true because I feel like better and better products are coming out all the time. Where I think a product that came out in 2021, comparing it to now, sometimes it doesn't stand the test of time. Sometimes it does. And also me as a person, my preferences change, my taste changes, my skin changes, and that happened for me in 2022. So anyway, I've got some products here that I want to try on for you, for me, and let's discuss if I still like them as much as I liked them in 2021. If you do enjoy this video while you're watching it, please give it a thumbs up. That helps me out a lot when you do that. And if you're not already subscribed, I would love if you would consider subscribing before you leave if you love makeup content. And also, by the way, everything I use in today's video, if it is still available, I will link it down in the description box below. I feel like I'm such a different person makeup-wise now. I've discovered so many more brands, so many more formulas. Back then, I was really mostly a drugstore gal as well as a like mainstream gal. Like I really didn't know anything about indie brands or smaller brands. I really exclusively shopped at the drugstore or Ulta and Sephora. And so a lot of my products are drugstore products. When I wrapped up 2021, I did a high-ends favorite video and a drugstore favorites video. So I kind of pulled things from both sides. So for eyeshadow palettes, my favorites that I put were pretty much all high-end except for one palette. Laura Lee Los Angeles, I guess she is considered a indie brand, obviously. Nudie number 2 palette. Still love that palette. Haven't gotten a ton of use out of it since 2021. Persona Identity palette, another beautiful neutral palette. ABH Sultry, beautiful palette. Patrick Ta Major Dimension. So in 2021, I didn't do a like palette ranking, but those were my favorite palettes from high end or whatever. I only mentioned one drugstore eyeshadow palette that technically I've decluttered from my collection, but I pulled it out one more time to use it on camera. And that is the Hard Candy Look Pro eyeshadow palette. And I did talk about this in my like eyeshadow collection video. This palette I thought was really good for the drugstore. I haven't actually used this in a really long time. And that's why I'm pulling it out again because my tastes have changed a lot. I'm kind of an eyeshadow snob now, I'm not gonna lie. I really only want to use really good eyeshadows, you know? If I only have 2 eyes and I can only do my makeup once a day, I want the eyeshadow to be good. So I'm interested to pull this out now, a year plus later, and use it today on camera with you guys, and let's see how I feel about it. Do I feel like it's one of my favorites? I'm gonna guess no, but I'm not judging yet. So this is from Walmart. It's from Hard Candy. I believe it retails for $10. And from what I remember, the mattes are pretty buildable. They're not very pigmented, but the shimmers were really pretty in this. So let's create an eye look with it. I did prime my eyes with the Rare Beauty eyeshadow primer today. And I'm gonna go in with a fluffy brush, and I'm gonna go in up here with this shade, this like slightly warmer pink shade. We're just gonna put this through the crease. Let's see what happens. So that looks really nice. I mean, it just looks kind of like what I expect when I look in the pan. It's not super powdery. It's pretty easy to blend out and use. All right, I'm gonna go in with a slightly smaller fluffy brush with this shade over here, which is just slightly deeper, but still the same idea. Totally fine, that was completely easy to blend, pretty effortless. Are they anything like really pigmented? No, but fine. Now I'm gonna go in with this deepest dark purple over here with an even smaller brush. Just put this in the outer V. Okay, so that was totally fine, easy to blend. Not really any complaints. As you can see in the pan, it does look a little deeper than it looks on my actual eye, but it's still deep enough for me. I'm happy with that. I'm gonna go in with the NYX glitter primer, and then I'm gonna pop one of the shimmers on the lid. And I remember these shimmers being really pretty. Okay, I'm gonna go into this shimmer right here. They're kind of like marbled shimmers. Obviously, the more you rub your finger in it, the less marbled it's gonna get, but I remember these being very metallic. Yeah, really pretty, but I would definitely say more on the textured side. So you would want to do your eyes first, put a glitter primer down, or wet your brush just so you don't get glitter fallout all over your face. I mean, unless you want that. It's totally your call. Oh yeah, it's really pretty. Really pretty shimmers. All right, I'm gonna add another one of the shimmers to the inner part of my lid, but I'm gonna wait until we do the rest of the face and we'll come back to the eyes. But so far, I mean, it looks pretty nice. Not really much complaints for me to say. All right, so the next product would be primer. I only mentioned one primer, which was the e.l.f. Mint Melt Primer. And I used that, I think maybe a week or two ago for the first time in a really long time. And I had to throw it out because it definitely had expired. Like when it came out, it was like almost no moisture left to it. It was almost like so sticky to the point where I couldn't even like spread it on my face. I had had it for a really long time. Obviously, I bought it in 2021. So it was like, you know, a year plus. But that, unfortunately, I had to declutter. And honestly, I didn't get much use out of it this past year just because my skin turned really oily towards like the beginning of 2022. And my moisturizer was enough primer for me, to be honest. But if you've been here lately, you know my skin is like all over the place. It feels dry, past like 2 weeks, pretty dry. So what I am going to do is I'm going to use the Hard Candy Sheer Envy Hydrating Primer. I feel like this is pretty close to the e.l.f. Mint Melt Primer. It's a gripping primer. It's hydrating. The e.l.f. one was very hydrating. I remember putting it under foundations and it made my foundations look really glowy, which at that time I liked, which right now I kind of need that because of how dry I feel. And this one is also pretty hydrating. It's also a gripping primer. It's not as sticky in my opinion as the e.l.f. one, but it's still like, you know, a similar product. And I definitely need the hydration right now because I do feel really dry. I'm just gonna let that sit for a little bit.
A few moments later.
Okay, so for my favorite foundations, I named 4. So one of them was the Tarte Hydroflex Serum Foundation. This one I did declutter recently just because it's very glowy, and me with my oily skin, well, up until a few weeks ago, it was too glowy for me. If you have dry skin, I think you would really like it if you like a light to medium coverage with a glowy finish. It's a good one. The Beauty Blender Bounce Foundation, I really like. I still use it, I would say monthly. Like I do still use it quite often. And the Too Faced Born This Way Matte Foundation, I have not used that probably in about 10 months or something because the shade I have is more for winter time, but I do really like that foundation. But today I'm going to use the Essence Pretty Natural Hydrating Foundation. I love this foundation. This is almost gone. It's probably 2/3 gone. I think this is a beautiful foundation. Even though it's hydrating, I feel like I can still wear it with oily skin. I don't feel like it's overly hydrating. I would even call this more of like a natural finish foundation. I don't find it to be that hydrating, but it's definitely not matte. It's just like natural skin-like. It gives a light to medium coverage, so not like super high coverage. And the shade 090 Neutral Suede is a really good olive shade. It's a little deep for me right now, but I like having a foundation that's a little deeper than my skin tone because it makes me feel healthy. So I'm just gonna pick this up on a sponge and I'm just gonna start to pounce it on my skin. It blends out super easily. And it's super affordable. I think it's under $5 if I'm not mistaken. It's very thin, so it doesn't feel like a layer on top of your skin. So this is the foundation blended out on my face. So as you can see, it's like a light, like I said, light to medium coverage because I have a lot of acne here and I can still see the redness poking through, but it definitely helped a lot with it. And it just gives like a very skin-like look to the skin, which I like. I like that. I don't like a super makeup-y look. If you've not tried this foundation, I think it would work for all skin types. I really do. I think it's a beautiful one. And I would still consider it a favorite in 2023. Okay, I did not mention any concealers or powders. And I think it's because I was really strictly using like my favorites at that time were Tarte Shape Tape and the Ilia Soft Focus Powder. I didn't mention them, but I'm pretty sure I remember like that's kind of exclusively what I used. So I'm gonna go off camera. I'm just gonna pop on some concealer and powder and I will be right back and we can continue on the journey. So for bronzers, I mentioned the Juvia's Place bronzer duo. I love that still. It is a beautiful bronzer. It's really blendable, absolutely just gorgeous on the skin. I use the shade medium. So I would say if you are in between shades, you wanna go a little darker than you think you need to. I also mentioned the e.l.f. Putty Bronzer in the shade Honey Drip, another one of my favorite bronzers. I can't believe that came out in 2021. That's crazy. For high-end bronzers, I mentioned 3 that I'm gonna use today. Well, let's see. So the first one is the Danessa Myricks Power Bronzer in the shade Light. So this is one that I really didn't reach for last year very much at all. It is definitely very light. Like I don't even know if it's gonna work for my skin tone right now. We're gonna find out. It's definitely more of a thicker cream bronzer. It has a little more coverage to it. And it's definitely more on like the, I would say the warm side, especially for a light bronzer. So just be aware of that. But I do remember really liking it. I'm gonna apply it with my beauty sponge. Let's give it a shot, see what that looks like. I'm just gonna stamp it. Okay, it kind of shows up. I would say if you're lighter than me, this would probably work better. And if I'm not mistaken, this is the lightest shade that they offer. So that's what it looks like. I can see it on the skin. It's really pretty. It's really, really pretty. Again, it's a little bit thicker. It has a little more coverage, so it's not like gel-like like the e.l.f. Putty Bronzer is. So if you're looking for something like that, this is a really good cream bronzer. I really don't use it that much. I haven't used it in a while. I should bring it out. And then the other bronzer that I mentioned was the Makeup by Mario Soft Sculpt Bronzer in the shade Light Medium. Again, this is a bronzer I really didn't use very much last year. I was really stuck on the one size bronzer that I got this year, and I used that a whole lot, but this is an absolutely beautiful matte bronzer. So let's zhuzh up the cream bronzer a little bit with this powder bronzer. I went in with a very light hand because this is quite pigmented and the shade Light Medium is probably a little too deep for me right now, but yeah. And then the third bronzer that I mentioned is a bronzer and highlighter duo, which I'm gonna use the highlighter from today, is the Charlotte Tilbury Film Star Bronze and Glow Mini Contour and Highlighter Powder. I used to love this thing. I can really only use this when I'm pretty fair because the contour is very light and not super pigmented, but it's actually really beautiful. I like it a lot. It's like contour slash bronzer. It's not super cool toned or anything, but still beautiful. And this highlighter is really pretty. It's more of like a lit from within type of highlighter, which I like sometimes. Sometimes I want to be blinding and fun and fierce, and sometimes I want to just be like ethereal. Like a little angel. I'm feeling angel today. So we're gonna go in with this highlighter. We're just gonna throw it on here. Really beautiful. Again, this is one I should pull out and use because I have not used it in forever. But again, I think mostly because my skin's been a little too tan for it from the summertime, but really beautiful highlight, really pretty. And then even back then I was a blush lover because I mentioned a ton of blushes, some of which are the Patrick Ta cream and powder duos. I had a single one, or I have a single one called Do We Know Her? It's still a favorite. I can't believe that was from 2021. I didn't think it was that long ago, but I guess it was. And then the Patrick Ta blush palette from holiday 2021, not this year's one, 2021. I loved. It's beautiful, really beautiful. I also mentioned the Buxom Wanderlust blush in Mykonos, one of my favorite peachy blushes. But the two that I'm going to use today that I did mention is Milani Cheek Kiss Cream Blush in the shade Nude Kiss. I still use this one quite often. It's a beautiful drugstore cream blush, a beautiful cream blush in general, but it's very easy to apply. It's emollient without being greasy. Leaves like a natural finish to the cheek, so not super like powdery, but not super glowy. The color is beautiful. It's like this rose. Yes. So I'm gonna pop this on my cheeks. It's matching the eye look perfect. And then on top of that, I'm going to put the Essence The Blush in the shade 40 Beloved. This is another one I reach for all the time still. Like, it is still one of my favorite drugstore blushes. This pink color is just perfect. It's a little more neutral pink and it blends out so easily. It's not overly pigmented, but it's not super sheer. It's just that right amount of pigmented and I love it. So, still a favorite. All right, we're gonna finish up the eyes before we go to the lip products. I hate the packaging of this though. These things where you have to stick, I can't. I'm gonna go in with one of the other shimmers in the inner part of my lid. This one up here that's more of like a, it almost looks like a duochrome. I don't know if it is, but it's like a champagne-y shade. So I'm gonna go in with that. And I am gonna spray the brush just so I don't get it everywhere all over my finished face. It's gonna go right in the inner part. Really pretty. I'm gonna take a little tiny flat definer brush. I'm gonna go into that darkest matte shade that we use, that purple, and just push this up against my lash line. I'm gonna take a pencil brush and I'm gonna go into that second matte shade that we used over here and just smoke that out. I'm gonna go in with a really small fluffy brush and I'm gonna go into the first matte shade that we used and just smoke it out even more. We're getting smoky. I'm gonna go in with the Charlotte Tilbury highlighter as my inner corner highlight. I'm not sure how bright it's gonna be. We'll give it a shot. I would have preferred something a little brighter, but it'll do. Okay, two lip products that I mentioned as some of my favorites. I did also mention the Fenty Gloss Bomb, both the Heat as well as the regular, because they are my favorite, let's be real. But a couple other products that I mentioned are these two from Alamar Cosmetics, two that I honestly haven't used in a really long time. So I kind of want to use them again and just see how I feel. So I have the lip pencil that they have in the shade Dulce, and I really remember liking this, being very creamy and long wearing. It's a brown color. And then this was a new product that Alamar, I guess, released in 2021. Again, I would have thought it would have been this year, but time flies, doesn't it? This is the Besitos de Perla Shimmering Liquid Lip Balm. And this is in the shade Corazon, and it's like a very, very sparkly, it's a lip balm, but it's in like almost a glossy form. So it's very liquidy, but it's very moisturizing to the lips. It's a really unique formula. So I'm gonna line and fill my lips in with this Dulce, and then I'll put the lip balm on top. It's a beautiful color. This like warm brown, and it was very creamy and easy to fill in to make it basically a lipstick. Really nice. Okay, let me pop on this lip balm. It used to smell like pina colada, but I don't smell it anymore. So obviously, I hope it's not expired, but well, anyway, here we go. Like, look how sparkly that is. Wow. When it's on my lips, I can taste the pina colada. Ooh, that's so pretty. I'm feeling very sparkly with the eyes and the lips. Me likey. All right, and this is the finished look using the products that were in my favorites last year. Or, sorry, 2021, 2 years ago. I think the look came out absolutely beautiful. I am very impressed. What can I say? Let's just do a quick little recap of the products that I use and let me let you know if I still think they're my favorites. So the eyeshadow palette, I wouldn't call this a favorite, but I think that if you are in Walmart and you are looking for an eyeshadow palette, this is a really good choice. I definitely prefer this over like Milani eyeshadows, over e.l.f. eyeshadows, at least the eyeshadows I've tried. I think this is a really good palette. I love the color story, these rosy pinks. I think my eye look came out really beautifully. I don't really have any complaints. The foundation, like I already said, I love, have loved since 2021, have used since 2021, and I think it's beautiful. The cheek products. This Danessa Myricks Cream Bronzer, I'm impressed with. Again, I haven't used it in a long time, so I'm definitely gonna keep this kind of at the top drawer of my desk to reach into and maybe get some more use out of. The Makeup by Mario bronzer is really beautiful, really blendable, really easy to use. A little bit more on the pigmented side though. The Charlotte Tilbury Little Duo is beautiful. This highlighter, I love how it looks on my cheeks. Stunning. Would I consider these favorites? Not favorites. Like I have other things that I've bought since this that I prefer, if I'm gonna be honest with you, but still really good products. These two blushes I would consider favorites because I have constantly reached for them. Even this past year, the Milani Creme blush is so beautiful and a beautiful, unique rosy color with a really beautiful formula. And then Essence, the blush, love, love this pink blush. It's a go-to whenever I'm not really sure what blush to pair with my look. And then the lip products are so stunning. I completely forgot to really reach for these this year, but these are also gonna go in my to use drawer because both products look stunning. Everything else that I didn't mention, I will also put in the description box below. So if you're interested in that, check the description box. And yeah, that's it. Let me know your favorites that you've had for years that you just keep going back to, things that were your favorites in 2022, 2021, and even beyond. Are there things that you're still reaching for even when all of these new products are coming out? What are some things that you were still reaching for? I would love to know. And if you did enjoy this video, please give it a thumbs up. That helps me out a lot when you do that. And if you're not already subscribed to my channel, I would love if you would consider subscribing before you leave. I do upload videos weekly, both beauty and fashion videos, and I would love to see you back on my channel again. I want to thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye.